Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth Alpha video. Today it's a pretty damn exciting one because we are going to be looking at the two new faction hubs for this expansion. Of course, unlike Legion, we are not sharing a hub. We each get our own city, and we're going to be kicking it off in this video with the Horde, who gets Zuldazar. So Zuldazar is pretty damn cool, and right now you can see I'm just running up the port of Zuldazar. It's basically in a few different sections. It's, definitely got some Latin American inspirations in terms of its overall architecture, and essentially we see the Horde sort of land here after the very initial events of the expansion, but of course that is spoilerific, so I'm not really going to cover it. Artistically, you can pretty much see exactly what they're going for with the troll stuff. Now, it is quite large and spread out, and that broadly is a theme that you're going to see throughout these. However, the area where there's a lot of utility, that's actually somewhere that's decently compact. But before we show you that, or before I show you that, here's a dinosaur that I wanted to run over to, because it's a dinosaur, and they're pretty damn cool, and they're also sort of massive. So yeah, there's that, and if I run down here, you can see there's a whole bunch of boats here, and if this is operating in any way that is similar to Kulturas, in Kulturas there's a bit of a ferry network which can take you to various different places across the water, the center of the, well, continent's a bit of an odd word for it, but it seems like there is something similar going on here. But this is just the port area, and I think it's about time we actually go and look at the main part of Zuldazar that we'll actually be spending our time in. Of course, the easiest way to do that is through the air, and that's also going to give us a pretty damn good look at everything else that is going on here. So we're going to start off by going to the Horde Embassy in Zuldazar, and also, yeah, just getting a wonderful look at the overall place. So here is the port, which itself is decently sizable. However, the main part of Zuldazar is up there, and I really like how this kind of looks in this sort of this sort of morning light that's going on. We've got some nice little river systems going on there. Overall, it's a very, very, very impressive zone. Now, what's interesting is that Zuldazar there's a lot of questing here, and when you go throughout here, and I don't want to cover spoilers in this video, but you'll find enemies in certain areas. So while this core pyramid is fine, some of the other ones, as an example, this one, they actually have enemies in them and also questing. Now, to get you a great look at this, though, we're going to head down to the base and take it from the bottom up. I think I might have taken that, well, I think I might have taken from the bottom up a little bit too seriously. That's So when we tackle it from the bottom, you really do get a better sense of scale and what Blizzard are going with here. And yeah, so the port that we came with is just all the way back over there. Now, so we got two different pyramids. That one is a bit more involved with the questing. It's not actually a hub area. So, yeah, probably not worth going there for the sake of spoilers. But suffice to say, with these big things, kind of once you've seen them, you see one of them, you've kind of seen most of them. So, yeah, just as an example, there's a bunch of sort of warrior type NPCs characters there. So you'll be, dealing with some questing as you head over to that next pyramid. But let's go to the main one of Zuldazar and show you the main Horde area, which is somewhere that kind of reminds me of the Vale cities that we had, because it's decently small and compact, which is definitely quite nice for the sake of just running around it, but it is all within this sort of larger context, which is pretty cool. And just to give you an overall look at the art as well, like, just the scale is super impressive, the colors are nice and vibrant. I know, okay, we're here at a certain time of morning where maybe it isn't as gleaming as it perhaps could be. We've got a big dinosaur there. Generally, you will see a lot of dinosaurs going on in the Zandalari area, which is pretty damn cool. So, yeah, let's move up onto the next level. You can see a whole bunch of people. These guys have also bought the Collector's Edition for Battle for Azeroth, so I suppose, I don't know, the Zandalari wages are pretty decent, but let's keep on going. Now, there is some stuff in the middle, but let's just climb up first, because that's where the main sort of Horde area is. Yeah, overall, pretty damn cool. Thankfully, and this is one thing it's quite handy, there are loads of flight points around here, so you can actually just fly directly to the top level, and also here is where you will find the training dummy NPCs, which is pretty damn handy. I think we also... Do we have a tank one in here? Anyway, yeah, well, training dummies are here, so... Oh. Yep, turned out there was a tanking dummy, and, well, I just didn't see it. Pointless deaths aside, let's keep on going up to the Horde Embassy area, which is, yeah, pretty much just up here, and you're going to see all of the usual things, but I think in a format that is quite nice, I suppose. Here's a flight master. Now, there is actually a flight master from here to the very, very top in the throne room, which we'll check out in a minute. Just overall, I mean, yeah, come on, these visuals, I kind of shouldn't need to say anything, really. They sort of speak for themselves. It's all quite an impressive scene the Blizzard have managed to make here. But if we go in, this is where we start to see the layout of things. Of course, a whole bunch of Forsaken there, makes sense with Sylvanas. Now, this is the main Horde Embassy area. Very rich, detailed, nice looking. I really love the mix of the colors. There's our innkeeper who's dancing for some reason. When we go over here, we see the portal room. Look at this magnificent thing. Yeah, that's extremely useful right beside your Hearthstone vendor, so that's kind of great. Now, one thing that I did see in the data mining is that there is a Zandalar Hearthstone, a bit like the Dalaran one that we currently have. There's some Azerite, by the way, not sure what it's doing here, so having that will be pretty damn useful, actually, in terms of getting around here. I wonder if Nomi will make his way over here. Hopefully not. Hopefully we've decided that Nomi was a dark chapter that we should all move past. Generally, though, loads of NPCs. We've got Talanji, we've got Nathanos. If you go here, we've got the Zandalar map, which, if I click on this, I believe I get a little error, and then, yeah, as you can see, it's the Broken Isles, but yes, we do have mission tables coming back, though we currently do not know in what capacity that's actually happening. You see a whole bunch of representatives and emissary NPCs around here as well for the various different sub-factions that you will be dealing with. There's our archaeology trainer, inscription trainer. Overall, quite compact. Maybe it'll take a little bit of time to just get your head around its layout, but overall, yeah, pretty damn easy. And one thing that I think is also kind of interesting is these guys are all Kor'kron NPCs, yet they are not orcs, so maybe there's been some sort of organizational change there for the Horde. But with all of this pretty damn cool-looking stuff seen, I think we really need to go upstairs and check out the throne. So, up we go. There's the level that we were currently on. You can see that in the context of the overall scale. And, yep, we're pretty much here already. Kind of quick. A bit interesting that they chose to put a Flight Master there. But if we head up, we see, first of all, we're up very nice and high. And here is King Rastakhan and Zul as well. So, some major Zandalari characters chilling out at a pretty damn nice-looking throne room. So, for the most part, that really is all that there is to see with Zuldazar. I love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic looking. Dalaran is brilliant. I love Dalaran, you know, but this is definitely very, very different feeling. Breath of fresh air. And yeah, it's my favorite of the two. I just, in general, the way the Horde areas look, as much as Drustvar is awesome, yeah, wow, I really, really like this stuff. So while we have been up there to take a look at the main Horde area, it's worth just doing a quick little run through the city area, I suppose, where, yeah, you just see a whole bunch of, like, NPCs, vendors, pretty much standard stuff. I don't think we'll be spending a lot of time here, and this is probably just mainly related to the quests and that sort of content that's going on. But one thing that I suppose I do want to bring up is, you know, after, say, losing Bladespire and Karabor, you know, with those Blizzard sort of were saying that, you know, it's not worth doing a whole big city, right? And it's a lot of effort for some of the players won't end up being. Well, I do think that if you run around here, it gives you a lot of context to the Zandalari. I think it's just very good for world building. Of course, we do have to see whether they will do something useful with this area, but to sort of bring it back to the Warlords of Draenor example, I think that even if, you know, in Warlords of Draenor, there had not have been a massive amount to do in Karabor, well, if that had have been an alliance hub in the same way that Stormshield was, it could have had its, you know, its sort of nice, you know, compact area, but that it then could have also had the wider city, and maybe they could have actually done something with that content. So it's food for thought, I suppose, and that's definitely something that's more relevant as we head on over to Boralis, which is the Kultiran capital. And, well, yeah, we've pretty much reached the outside of Zuldazar now. Pretty damn awesome place. So with all of that looked at, let's take a look at Boralis. Okay, it's time to look at the city of Boralis, which is the home of the Kultiran humans. Well, I suppose mainly it's the home of the Proudmoore family of the Kultiran humans, but we can deal with politics and lore later when it's not really running the risk of spoilers. So the first thing that we see is, down here, there's a whole bunch of vendors. Furs, spices, gadgets, all that fun stuff. Let's see, does this guy have any interesting guns? No, he has a Dalaran rifle. Probably just all placeholder stuff. But yeah, so if you look here, this is the main seawall of Boralis. It's a sort of fortified city, so yeah, whether it be by land or boat, it's a pretty dangerous place to try to attack. Anyway, yeah, pretty cool, and we'll be running along those walls later on, but let's head up here. It's just worth saying this seems a lot more placeholder than Zuldazar is. So there's our innkeeper, a few relevant characters, our teleport back to Stormwind. If I do this, I believe this quest is taking me to a planning map. Yeah, which is just over here, which again, all feeling rather placeholder, and that's just to go to the 2 zones that we're able to check out at the minute for the Alliance on the Battle for Azeroth alpha test. So for the rest of this video, because there really isn't a super defined hub here, I'm just going to take you on a tour of the city, because I think it's really quite cool. So this is the big seawall that I was talking about. Here's our Flight Master, and just to give you a bit of context, Perales is here where my mouse is, and there's Tiragard Sound, there's Drustvar, and there's Stormsong Valley. It's looking quite cool. Big old cannons everywhere. I don't want to talk about any of the story stuff, but suffice to say, as an Alliance player, you do land here in interesting circumstances, and that all plays out in a pretty satisfying manner so far as the story goes. There's our big old gate to get into the city. Of course, the geometry, as you can see, yeah, it really is less finished than Zuldazar is, but if we just hop down, you can start to see the more street-level scenes, which are kind of like what we saw in the trailer from BlizzCon. We do have some Doom speakers, so maybe there's a little bit of Old God stuff going on there. Again, though, I'm not going to talk about spoilers, but yeah, everything in this expansion does point to there being some tentacle-related tomfoolery going on. Just to give you a little bit of a look at these sort of the base feel texture-wise of some of these houses. Obviously, there is nothing in here. It's definitely a little bit washed out, and I think that makes sense given it's all a bit, weathered by the sea and the salt and the sun and all those things, which sort of makes sense. I come from a coastal enough area myself, and yeah, believe me, things that start off being vibrant end up having the color sucked out of them by the elements, but it's the sort of thing which maybe it doesn't look as good in a trailer, but when you're running around in-game, I think it all does work perfectly fine. Of course, more untextured areas. It's quite a large city. That's one thing that you do notice. I'm not sure how big it would be in comparison to Gilneas City or in comparison to Stormwind, but because you can't fly, it certainly does feel like it does feel larger than Stormwind, and I don't really mean that in a snarky way. When you're running around sort of street level, these are, it's all quite nice looking, I suppose, the art style that they've went with. Now, again, loads of untextured stuff, obviously not finished, and there's a lot of NPCs that clearly are not here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of the same art, but just in a different layout or, anything like that as we head into the expansion proper. But let's take a look at some of the boats. So these are the Kultiran boats, a slightly new design / reskin. That's something that we also see for these Antilari boats. The boats do get a lot bigger than the previous ones that we've seen in the game. Here's the sort of captain's area. I know we're not getting player boats, but I mean, hey, customizing your own boat, you know what, that would have been pretty cool. Maybe one day, given all the new boat assets that they have. So let's mount up and check out that really big, tall sort of wall area. If we can, I mean that over there, but just to peek out of the city a little bit into the rest of Tiragard Sound to give you an idea of the color scheme that's going on here. Oh, also, Kultiran humans. Here is a bit of a look. Well, there's a regular human, but a pretty good comparison, Kultiran versus regular. Actually, just one thing that is nice is in terms of like just detail and like object density and stuff, it all, it all looks quite rich, I think, which is pretty good. Well, as it turns out, there actually was another entrance over there, so let's just head over to the right and check out the rest of that big seawall and the rest of Boralis. So again, Boralis, this brings me back to the entire discussion about Karabor, Bladespire, Warlords of Draenor, which I then think moves onwards to Suramar. Suramar was a very effective way of essentially selling that as a place in the world, like a large fleshed out location that was actually lived in, which is something that MMOs typically do struggle with. I mean, if you think of Goldshire, it's supposed to be a town, right? But it only has, 5 houses? It's pretty tiny. So it's definitely interesting seeing Blizzard being more willing in certain times to really amp up the scale. It's something that they did with great effect in Legion with Suramar, and it seems like that is something that they really do think has worked out quite well because, well, if I just look around my character, this looks like a pretty damn expansive location. it really sells its sense of place. It's immersive. Yeah, it feels nice and homely, I suppose, which is pretty great, as does Zuldazar. It's almost kind of a pity that Suramar did not end up being a faction hub after patch 7.1, though of course that would have led to some awkward allied races related moments. Again, some broken geometry and stuff like that, which is all to be expected. It currently isn't even beta, it is alpha. It definitely does feel like alpha at times. I've been falling through the world and a few issues like that, though oddly enough, not in the questing zones. It's been the other locations that I've actually had issues. We've got this nice little maze garden here. Overall, just, yeah, it's pretty nice. And then as I keep on going through this area, you get a pretty great view into the other zones. And this is such a time where the game's like, look at that. First of all, it looks like a damn painting, but the game's increased render distance combined with how I at least seem to think, from what I've been playing of this so far, they seem to be making better use of fog. And I mean fog in terms of how they blend the lighting and everything together to create, I guess, a scene that, or, you know, a picture that has less, I think, visual breaks. You know, the way when fog is implemented badly in a game, it can look extremely unnatural and very harsh, and it just doesn't really make visual sense. Well, I found that in places like here and Drustvar, it all sort of blends together quite well, better than maybe they've done in the past. Now we're just going in to the other side of the city, which largely is going to be quite similar to the first one, so we're sort of going to gloss over it, bar taking a look at the various NPCs and sort of happenings that are going on here. And, you know, it's weird, because, of course, High Mountain was something that was in Legion, but one thing I've noticed going through Drustvar as well is having those mountains which dominate the skyline and can be seen across the entire region is really effective. And I think the way that they've been able to do that is that there doesn't seem to be a humongous amount of verticality, bar in particular areas like the mountains. And what that means is that visually, you kind of always have these large landmarks to sort of benchmark yourself against, which I think makes it easier to judge where you are in the world. Like, the more you're able to judge where you are in the environment, I think the more that, like, scale and all of those things start to happen, because it feels like you're in a place rather than a game. And maybe Legion ran into issues where it felt sort of too gamey in a few places. Certainly, it's something that I've found that Cult Ras does extremely well. However, Zuldazar, or Zandalar, by virtue of having places like Nazmir, does sort of find, you know, I don't want to say it struggles, because it is just a different vibe. Of course, Nazmir is actually one of my favorite zones. Now, there was a Kultiran female running around here, because I know a lot of you want to see what that model's like. As you can see, really dwarfing, the Kultirans just in general really do dwarf the regular, just the regular humans that we're used to. And this area of the town is a little bit more, well, it's a little bit more finished. You can just see in terms of the small details, right? The weathering and all of that stuff. Just a little bit more time has been put into here as of the current build of the alpha that we're on at the minute. So that gives you a pretty decent look of things. We're just going to travel up a little bit here so I can get you a nice overall view of the city. All right, so there we go. A pretty damn good look at Boralis. It's sprawling in comparison to most of what you see in an MMORPG town or city. I mean, it definitely, for me, you know, it stands up there with places like Suramar, places like Zuldazar, Stormwind. Maybe it's a bit smaller than, say, Lion's Gate in Guild Wars 2, but still, it's looking pretty damn nice, in my view. I think very good playable area. It seems to be quite easy to navigate in terms of there being, like, just lots of bridges and stuff to link all the areas together. And, yeah, overall, I think my position on all of this stuff is the new hubs are really cool. The new art of the zones is just really cool. I love the visuals of this expansion. It's totally, for me, sold itself on its sense of place and uniqueness more than Legion has. That's probably something I'll talk about a little bit more when I do a roundup video of just all of my time throughout the alpha test. But for now, this is what I'm going to leave you with. You know what? Pretty damn nice view to leave you with. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.